everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I decided to bring you a double feature this week of decks containing Yveltal EX. Unfortunately, I am not able to right-click and zoom in on it because TCGO just went under an interesting update, and for some reason I'm not allowed to right-click on anything anymore and zoom in, so I'll just have to talk about the cards. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it interesting or helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. And also, if you are interested, there is a Pokemon TCGO tournament that we are hosting that signups will end on April 6th, so if you want to sign up for a TCGO tournament for a chance to win some breakpoint codes, it's completely free to enter. Just feel free to hop on over and check that out. There will be a link in the description. Anyway, on to the deck that, like I said, it is centered around, well, kind of centered around Yveltal EX with the Evil Ball and Y Cyclone. Again, I apologize that I'm not able to right-click on these and zoom in. I guess what I can do is just lower this really quickly to be able to right-click. So this is the Evil Ball attack, basically X-Ball from the old Mewtwo and Arrow Ball from the current Lugia. It's insanely powerful, and there are plenty of ways to power it up. That is why I love this card. We are using 3 of the baby Yveltal EX for the Oblivion Wing attack. Attach a Darkness Energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. Normally the target will be the Yveltal EX, but also we have Seismitoad EX as well with the Quaking Punch. This is kind of an older archetype that saw a lot of success in City Championships, and I decided to bring it back just because Garbodor from Breakpoint got reprinted and with the Garbotoxin ability, so that is why I decided that this deck deserved another look, especially now. So I mean, really it's just centered around locking your opponent down with Seismitoad and then basically just cleaning up everything with Yveltal, and then also locking them down with Garbodor until you can bring out the Yveltal and just destroy everything that they have. On to the items. I'm sorry that I have to do it with this, but I mean, this is the only way that I'm able to zoom in on the cards. I will zoom back out later when I'm finally talking about the overview of the deck. We are running 2 Enhanced Hammer just to get rid of the DCEs from our opponent, kind of go along with the disruption theme that we have going. 2 Escape Rope just as a switching card, and I like Escape Rope because, well, particularly in this deck, because it does disrupt our opponent more than Switch does. I mean, Switch is nice, but Escape Rope can bring out something that our opponent doesn't necessarily want out there. We're running 1 red card, again, for the theme of disruption. 1 Startling Megaphone for those pesky Night March decks so that we can knock them out with Quaking Punch and the Oblivion Wing, well, unboosted Oblivion Wing anyway. 1 Super Rod just to bring some stuff back into our deck that we need. 4 Ultra Ball to get everything out. 4 VS Seeker. I mean, VS Seeker is amazing. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention 2 of the other Pokemon that we are using. I really don't need to say this anymore, but I mean, it's Shaman because Shaman because Shaman. And then 1 Hoopa just because, I mean, a single Ultra Ball turns into a Shaman, Yveltal, and a Seismitoad just through Hoopa. So Hoopa is very, very, very good in this deck. Onto the supporters, 1 AZ to bring up the Shaman to get some more draw support, bring up a damaged Seismitoad, bring up the Hoopa that you don't want to see anymore. AZ just has great synergy in this deck. 2 Judge just to, again, disrupt our opponent and kind of refresh our hand at times. 2 Lysander to bring out our opponent's benched Pokemon that we kind of want maybe to get stuck in the active. 4 Sycamore for the guaranteed draw support. 2 Shauna. Now, I could potentially run Professor Birch's Observations, but there's a lot of stuff in this deck that you don't necessarily want to discard immediately. So Shauna is a good way to get a fresh hand of 5. I mean, I know Judge disrupts your opponent and Birch can potentially get you 7, but I just like the consistency that Shauna is able to bring, even if it's not with the strongest hand in the world. 5 cards is still very solid. We are running 1 Faded Town just for disruption on Mega Pokemon, and then 2 Reverse Valley for the added damage with our Dark Pokemon, just because, I mean, those will be the main attackers of this deck. Seismitoad really isn't used so much for attacking as just disrupting, so I figured Reverse Valley would be pretty good for that. 3 Fighting Fury Belt, because this card is freaking amazing. I mean, with all of the EX center decks, I mean, this card just gives them extra HP and also allows them to do 10 more damage. I mean, this card is just absolutely ridiculous. It's so good. I can't decide whether I like that it was printed or not. Obviously, when I'm using it, I love it, but when I have to face it, it gets very annoying. But either way, Fighting Fury Belt is a phenomenal tool for all of your basic Pokemon attackers. And, I mean, even though you don't necessarily want to, in a pinch, you can also slap it onto Garbodor to shut down abilities. And then 2 Floatstone, that's really just entirely for the Garbodor line to activate the Garbotoxin. And something I would like to point out that I pointed out before, do not attach a tool to Garbodor, then try to go for Scoundrel Ring or Setup. It will not work. You've just shut down abilities. So don't be stupid like I have been a couple times, because I'm not used to running these types of decks. So yeah, just be careful about when you decide to lock abilities. As for the energy, we are running 4 DCE and 8 Darkness Energy. Those are really like the engine of the deck. Seismitoad runs on DCE. I mean, really everything runs on DCE, I mean, except for like Hoopa and Garbodor, but you never want to be attacking with those guys. So you really just want to lock your opponent down with Seismitoad, disrupt them early while powering up an Yveltal EX in the back to just come in and absolutely clean up. Against Night March, this deck is very strong because you have Seismitoad who locks items, you have Enhanced Hammer, you have Baby Yveltal who can trade prizes while accelerating energy. So I really like this deck. I mean, it's a little bit annoying just because it is kind of centered around the lock, and the reason that I'm able to justify using this deck is because it is not 100% centered around the lock. You are using Seismitoad's lock in order to be able to power up your attackers in the background with the ultimate goal of taking prizes. So that is the deck, and let's just go ahead and see it in action. Alrighty, we have found one against the Mercy with a Psychic, Water, and Electric deck, and I don't know why TCGO does this a couple times. I just kind of disappear, and I mean, I just had a couple games before I started recording and it was going just fine, but for whatever reason TCGO just decides that all of a sudden I'm going to disappear and then it's taking a while. So clearly this latest patch has some pretty solid bugs, and I mean, I do have a couple other things that I don't really like about it, like the coin flip right here. As you can see, it stops and then it just goes really fast, and then it just stops on its own after you call the coin flip. I kind of liked how it was beforehand, where it just kind of went on its own. And as you can see with the deck shuffling, it does a shuffling animation, which I'm really not sure how I feel about that. I mean, it looks just kind of messy. I kind of just liked how it was there on its own. And okay, so we start off with, I guess it could be potentially worse, but it's not the greatest starting hand because it does look like we're facing off against a Night March deck. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I don't necessarily like having Yveltal active, particularly with a Joltik right there. So what I am going to go ahead and do is play a Reverse Valley down, go ahead and play the DCE onto the Yveltal, and then Sycamore away the rest of my hand. Hopefully get something else that we can work with. Okay, I do get something pretty solid. I get an Escape Rope, I get an Ultra Ball, a Dark Energy, and an Escape Rope. I don't want to get rid of the Escape Rope. I'll get rid of the Ultra Ball and the Darkness Energy to grab a... Let's grab a Hoopa. Yeah, let's grab a Hoopa. Go ahead and play the Float Stone onto the Trubbish, play the Hoopa down. Yes, get up to 3 Pokemon EX. Let's grab a Seismitoad and a Shaman. And you know what? I think against Night March, I'm going to want another Seismitoad. So let's go ahead and grab 2 of those. Play both of those down. And we already have a full bench turn 1. Let's go ahead and Escape Rope, go into one of the Seismitoads, go for a Shaman, draw 4 more cards, and be in a better position than we were. So alrighty, we're in an okay starting position. I will be able to get a lock on my opponent turn 2. Most likely he will not be able to Lysander in the Yveltal on the bench, so I will have something going, I guess. I will be able to get an ability lock and an item lock turn 2. My opponent does get a Fighting Fury Belt, hence why we do play the Startling Megaphone. Hopefully I will be able to draw into that next turn. Yeah, that's the problem facing Night March is the turns take so long. Let's see what they have prized. They really have nothing two particularly valuable prizes, so that's a bit of a bummer. I was kind of hoping that we'd see like 2 DCE there or something like that, to where my opponent would be drawing kind of thin. The nice thing here is that my opponent, even with the Fighting Fury Belt, he still needs 9 Night Marchers to be able to knock out my Seismitoad EX. So that is, I guess, something to kind of hang my hat on right there, that we will most likely not have to worry about the... oh, I guess we see a Remoraid, but we will be able to lock that down with Garbotoxin. I guess my opponent doesn't play any Shaman, and he must have a Sycamore in hand or something like that. Oh, he has a Judge. That is, ooh, that's not good. That is very not good, because we had a great hand that I really liked, and we don't get something that good. We get a Judge, an Ultra Ball, and a Fighting Fury Belt, so it all depends on what I'm able to draw this turn. I'm hoping to get a DCE. That is what I really want to get off of the Judge. Or I can draw into a Sycamore. That would be just fine, because then I can Ultra Ball for a Garbodor, play the Fighting Fury Belt onto my Seismitoad, and just lock my opponent from there. So we'll see what goes on. I'm kind of slightly regretting not having my Yveltal active, just because I have energy already attached to it, and I kind of have to fish for another DCE. And oh man, my opponent got judged and drew into 2 a puzzle of time. That is, oh man, talk about luck right there. That's just kind of annoying. And okay, that's another patch that I don't like. I guess we can change it from stacked view, but I mean, okay, you know what? I will reserve judgment. I kind of like that. But we will. I wonder what my opponent's going to do this turn. I will get rid of the Sycamore that he has in his hand. I'm hoping that he's not able to really do much this turn. He only has 1 Night Marcher in the discard pile, so I guess, okay, so we are in an okay position. I do get an Enhanced Hammer. I mean, that would have been great if my opponent had gotten a DCE that turn, but unfortunately I just have to discard it, go ahead and grab a Garbodor, play that down onto the Trubbish, play the Fighting Fury Belt on the Seismitoad, go for a Judge, and get nothing. Although I do have a Sycamore in my discard pile. It's unfortunate that I played the Fighting Fury Belt, because otherwise this turn I would have been able to go into Yveltal and Evil Ball. But what I can just do is play the Darkness Energy onto, yeah, the Seismitoad, and just end my turn right there. I kind of want to play the Floatstone just in case my opponent judges again. I don't want to have to draw into that, but I think that will just be my turn for now. Oh man, that is slightly annoying, but we do what we can with what we got. Fortunately, my opponent will not be able to get an Octillery up this turn, because, well, he will be able to get an Octillery up this turn if he has the cards for it, but luckily it won't be able to do anything thanks to Garbotoxin, and also my opponent will not be able to do anything with like a Shaman or something like that. And I mean, am I the only one that thinks that shuffling animation just kind of looks messy? But I don't know, that's up to everybody else. Hopefully my opponent will not be able to get a DCE this turn. We were both slowed down significantly, and it looks like my opponent might not necessarily have draw support this turn. That's kind of what I'm hoping right now, so that we do have a chance to just VS Seeker for a Sycamore this next turn to be able to get a fresh hand. And okay, so my opponent now has 4 Night Marchers in the discard pile. Hopefully he won't be able to do anything. Okay, so we do see the DCE. That is very unfortunate. I kind of wish I had the Enhanced Hammer. Unfortunately, I had to discard that previously, but I mean, what are you going to do about it? And okay, we just see a Night March for 90 damage. That will not be a 2-hit KO, and we even see another Fighting Fury Belt. I'm going to go ahead and play that on the other Seismitoad, I think. Do I want to? Yes, that way I can get a 2-hit knockout on the Joltik if he can somehow knock me out next turn. Let's just go ahead and go for a Sycamore to get a fresh hand, play the Floatstone onto the Hoopa, and then discard that Trubbish. Try to draw in an energy, but we do not. That stinks a lot, so I'm just going to go ahead and Enhanced Hammer away that, and then I think I just have to end my turn right there. I mean, I run 12 energy in the deck, and somehow I did not draw a single one. so that is very unfortunate right there. I'm going to go ahead and Ultra Ball away the Lysander and probably the Shaman, just because I really don't want to draw into those. Grab an Yveltal. I think I don't necessarily need it. It is very unfortunate that I wasn't able to draw an energy this turn to get the Quaking Punch lock, which I really wanted to start going for this turn. So if my opponent has another DCE, he will be able to hit me for some damage. I'm hoping that my opponent doesn't have anything right now and just has to... Oh, my opponent had a Sycamore. Oh, that is devastating. That is really devastating. Oh man, that's... at least he has... At least the Octillery won't be able to do anything, because, I mean, Abyssal Hand is not active thanks to Garbotoxin. And then I think I might just have to judge my opponent down to 4 cards next turn. I will... Depending on what I draw will determine what I use the judge for, because I don't want to deck out because this deck is a little bit slower and I don't really care about the Dimension Valley. It's not that big of a deal. So what I am... Okay, we do see another DCE. Oh man. I think my opponent might be able to... No, he will not get the knockout this turn. He will only be able to do 20... Or he will... Okay, so that's great. Let's go ahead and go for the Startling Megaphone. I want to make sure that I get a KO on this Joltik, so I'm going to have to go for the Sycamore. I will be able to take a prize this turn. And okay, we are in a pretty solid position. Let's just go ahead and play an energy onto the Seismitoad, counter the Stadium, and then go for a Quaking Punch to get rid of the Joltik. And in a pretty solid position, my opponent has to have a DCE and a DCE and a Dimension Valley in order to attack this turn, which I don't think he has based on the... Well, 4 cards, I mean, I don't think he will have it, just because, I mean, you have to have a lot to be able to attack this turn, and Seismitoad is just sitting pretty, being able to lock down your opponent. What I might do is, do I have an AZ in the discard pile? Yes, I do, but I don't necessarily think I want to use that just in case. We do see a 0-sick, so he will be able to knock out my Seismitoad. That stinks a little bit, but what I am going to go ahead and do is just promote probably my Yveltal, because this way my opponent doesn't look like he'll be able to attack this turn, and then I can just knock him out unless he does have that perfect combination of cards in his hand this turn. He is still under the item lock, so that is pretty nice. And what I am probably just going to do is knock out the Pumpkaboo, force in the Octillery or the Remoraid, and then just go from there. I do get another Darkness Energy, so that is probably good that I played the Fighting Fury, or that I played the Yveltal up. I didn't want to promote the Garbodor or the Hoopa just in case my opponent had a pretty good hand. So what I am going to do is just go ahead and Shauna, get 5 cards, hopefully get the... Oh, there's a DCE. Okay, that works. And then let's just go ahead and play the Yveltal on the bench. Go ahead and go for, I think, a... Do I want to go for a Y Cyclone to continue the lock? What I think... you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and go for an Evil Ball this turn, knock out the Pumpkaboo, and then get another prize card and force my opponent into his Octillery or his Remoraid. And what I can do next turn is play the Darkness Energy, or is retreat with the Yveltal, play the DCE onto the Seismitoad, and then continue with the Quaking Punch lock. Or that, maybe. We will see. I think I might just want to take prizes. I do have a VS Seeker that I can pull out a Lysander with if my opponent powers up something on the bench. And how many DCEs has he gone through? Only 2. So he does have 2 more DCEs. That is something to watch out for. Luckily, my opponent does not have any abilities, so Octillery's Abyssal Hand is completely useless. And I'm really hoping my opponent doesn't have a Floatstone or something this turn. If he can't get anything, then I am most assuredly attaching the DCE to the Seismitoad and then retreating with my Yveltal to continue the item lock, just because that's the only way my opponent will be able to really get anything going. And I'm going to get a knockout on the Remoraid anyway because he won't be able to play like a switch or something like that, and he'll have to either attach a DCE or a regular energy in order to retreat, which I don't think he plays any regular energy. I think he just has DCEs. And my opponent is really thinning out his deck at this point. I'm just going to go for a stacked view, see what that gets me, and okay. So 2 DCEs, 2 Battle Compressor, he played his third. He only has 2 more Joltik and 2 more Pumpkaboo left in his deck, which neither of which have come out yet, and both of whom will be knocked out if he decides to put a Night Marcher down. If he does put one on the bench this turn, then I am definitely Lysandering that in and trying to knock it out. If it's a Joltik, I will Lysander that in, then retreat into my Seismitoad and knock it out with a Quaking Punch. If it is a Pumpkaboo, then I am retreating into my Yveltal on the bench and just knocking it out. So unfortunately my opponent did have a VS Seeker in his hand, so that is something that's a little bit troublesome. But I do have a plan for no matter what my opponent decides to bring in. He does bring in a Joltik, and a Pumpkaboo. So I think I will have to see what my opponent puts a DCE on. Whichever one he puts a DCE on, I will try to knock out in one hit next turn. I think my best play right now... Okay, so we do see okay, my opponent gets a Startling Megaphone. That will actually shut off my abilities. Ooh, that's rough. And then I think, yeah, that's all that I have. Yeah, there goes Garbotoxin. So my opponent does have his abilities back, meaning he will be able to draw using Octillery. But I do have 1 Enhanced Hammer left, and we do see a Fighting Fury Belt onto the Pumpkaboo and a DCE. So that, I mean, that's what I'm going to do. I am just going to Lysander in the Pumpkaboo and knock it out with an Evil Ball. I mean, that's all I can do right now. My opponent just rearranged the top 3 cards of his deck, and I think he'll... Well, I mean, he'll be able to Abyssal Hand now and draw into them, but he will have to have a switching card in order to be able to bring out the Pumpkaboo this turn. So if you see a Float Stone or something like that, then we will be in... we'll be in trouble. But what I can do is hope that my opponent doesn't get a switching card, and then just Lysander in the Pumpkaboo and knock it out with an Evil Ball next turn, which is definitely my best play. Or I can go for a Y Cyclone, get the DCE onto the... get a DCE or a Darkness Energy onto the Seismitoad or the Yveltal on my bench to be able to power up something if I wanted to. But looks like my opponent... Okay, he just goes for a 0-sick, it looks like. How many... Okay, he's played all 4 of his Puzzle of Time. That's good to know. Let's go ahead and VS Seeker to grab a Lysander to bring out that Pumpkaboo on the bench to knock it out this turn. Let's go ahead and put a regular Darkness Energy on... Let's go ahead and play the DCE, I think. Let's go ahead and play the regular Darkness Energy onto the Yveltal on the bench, I think. No. Yes. No. I kind of want to make sure that I have stuff to work with, so what I am going to do is just go ahead and play the regular energy onto the Yveltal on the bench, go ahead and go for a Y Cyclone this turn, and then put the DCE onto the Seismitoad on the bench, just so I have a Quaking Punch next turn, and I'm in an okay position. My opponent will probably be able to knock me out with a DCE and a Night March from the Joltik next turn, but what I can do is just go right into probably Seismitoad or Yveltal and then just knock it out immediately after. My opponent does have 2 Joltik and 1 Pumpkaboo left. He has 1 Pumpkaboo in the prizes, so that means my opponent has a single Joltik left. We do see the DCE right there, so he will be able to knock out my Yveltal. And if we see a Fighting Fury Belt, that will be very bad. We do see the 0-sick gets rid of the DCE on the Seismitoad, so that is very worrisome. But what I think... Okay, so depending on what he takes from his prizes, he will take 2 prizes right here. If he takes the Pumpkaboo, then I'm going to promote my Yveltal. He does indeed take the Pumpkaboo. What I'm going to go ahead and do is make the Yveltal active, and then go ahead and I think play the play the Darkness Energy onto... play another Yveltal down, play a Darkness Energy onto this guy, go for a Shauna to draw more cards, something that we can get. Okay, we do. Let's just go ahead and reverse Valley. Let's go ahead and red card my opponent down to 4. Maybe he drew the Pumpkaboo, maybe he didn't, and then just go for an Oblivion Wing right here to get an energy back and onto, I don't know, probably the other Yveltal, because I do have the DCE in hand. And then we draw an Escape Rope, so that is something that is decent. My opponent has to promote the Octillery or the Remoraid this turn, both of whom have pretty high retreat costs. And unfortunately, he does have the Remoraid on his bench. So, okay, my opponent is going to draw himself out, and there is no way he can Lysander in something this turn. So we will just win thanks to certain item locks, and that's all I need to do. Let's just go ahead and play the DCE, end this with style with a Darkness Blade, take one more prize, and we even get to attack next turn, but there isn't going to be a next turn because that is it. Oh, there's my Super Rod. But because my opponent cannot draw, we just win. I think we might have won anyway, and I mean, I will admit that this wheel is kind of cool too. But anyway, that is the deck, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Check out the TCGO tournament if you would like to participate. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.